It's another Sunday book review, and today we'll be looking at Wolf in White Van, which is a 20. And I bought this book at some point on my Google Books. I don't know, I had a credit or something. I got like some sort of credit, and I bought it. And it's the first novel by John Darnielle, who is, of course, best known as the lead singer and really the only primary sole member, songwriter of the band The Mountain Goats. And he writes, he does that. He writes all the songs and all the music, and he's very much known for his lyrics. People just go nutty over his lyrics, and of course, he became a novelist, and he's released three novels. This one, 2014's Wolf in White Van, Universal Harvester, and a 2022 book called Devil House. And so I like this one. I thought it was a cool book. It was very readable. That's what you want to hear from me on my book reviews. How readable was the book that you read? I read it, so I guess it was readable. Jesus Christ. And I think at times, and I don't know how his prose has changed in the subsequent two novels, which I might check out at some point. I like this one well enough to at some point down the line check out the other books. The prose is a little bit. It can be overly wordy at times, but I think as a setup for action and just his plot is fascinating. The story is fascinating, and it drew me in a way that I kept wanting to read more and more about this character who is someone who's shot himself in the head and survived, and his face has been severely disfigured, and he escapes the pain of what's never explicitly, and I guess this is spoilers. Yeah, the whole book is a spoiler because all of the stuff is told out of order, so you kind of get bits and pieces as it goes, and I like that. I thought that was really effective, and he, they never call it a suicide attempt, and it has this very dark kind of twist at the end where he contemplates killing his parent. He doesn't ever seem that dark. That's the whole thing. I think the one thing that struck me at the end that was a little less satisfying than maybe it could have been is that he becomes this incredibly dark character right at the moment and it's almost like he pulls the gun out and sticks it in his face on a whim, and it's like, okay, it felt a little cheap on some level. But the book itself, like I said, it is more about the fascinating stuff is about this guy dealing in living in the aftermath of that. I think that's really the heart of the book, and you want to get to some point at the end that is really striking and makes it all make sense. But I guess like anything with suicide or attempted suicide, it's not something that's easily made sense of. The act itself is so almost otherworldly, right? It's just we're all here kind of in the aftermath of anything, whether it's a completed suicide attempt or just an unsuccessful one, such as this. Everyone, including the person who's pulled the trigger, is left sort of wondering, why and what could have been, and there are no answers for that, and that's so that I do understand that being put. That's sort of the answer, is that there are no answers being pushed across, but like I said, I don't want to harp on that too much because the primary interest in focus of the book is on this game, which is comically he names Trace Italian, which he explains why that name is, but just phonetically and just on the surface, to me is a very funny name for what is a choose your own adventure mail order game. Now, I should have done this before I hit play, and I guess these were real things. So now there's a play by mail, or known as PPM game. That's a cute little acronym. And you could do, and this was in relation to also correspondence chess, and Go, you can play. I guess so. I didn't know this was a real thing. Like you could play by games and turn, and you have a role playing game, like a fantasy role playing game where you read the story, and then you're given options of what you want your character to do, and then you write to the company. In this case, just him, just the guy. And so I'm sure this is probably something that John Darnielle played as a teen. I'm guessing these real things. I didn't know this existed. And not that it would have changed. Like while I was reading, I was like, this has to have been real. Like he couldn't have concocted the concept of this out of the blue. But then part of me was wondering. I can't believe I didn't look it up until now. That it maybe was like maybe he did kind of come up with this idea. I was like, because it seems so foreign to me. I like choose your own adventure books. They're among some of my favorite reading. Spent reading as a younger kid. As a kid. not a kid. I'm not a kid anymore. I swear. As dumb as some of these episodes are, I'm not a kid. I promise you. But yeah, I would have liked to play. Like it seems like there's a lot of mailing involved. I don't know. It seems a little bit of convoluted. I guess when there's not like a ton of TV on and internet, this is what you did. And yeah, I like that nature of it. And then there's this secondary kind of storyline about people who played the game that he invented, which is a moderate success, very very if to even call it that. It supplements his income. He writes modestly. It's not he's not like a famous game designer or anything like that. So but two players of the game, and this is another thread I thought it could have been expanded upon a little bit, was that these two players set off on a kind of real world adventure. They try and live out what's happening in the Trace Italian world in reality, and they're like just out of high school or in high school age kid, a girl and a guy, and they go to Kansas and dig a hole, which is like one of the things you're supposed to do in the game. And they do that in reality, and then one of them freezes to death, and the other one's like extremely fucked up by survives it, but he's extremely messed up for the rest of his life. And there's a lawsuit against him, against the parents of the deceased girl, and that's sort of is a subplot of this whole thing. And I kept wondering. I was like, well, is there going to be some sort of fantastical element here where? And I don't like doing this. Like, what this book is the book, and I don't want to and I'm not like sending notes here because this is a whole other book. Is like, I believe, is there some sort of like cosmic connection to reality that he sets in motion? And I kept thinking about that while I was reading it, but that of course isn't the case. It's just a failed and flawed idea that has a tragic end, and that's how that thread is closed up. So all the threads kind of close up in these very matter-of-fact type ways, which were counter against the magic that that the character himself kind of gets by with and lives inside his head. And that is an interesting idea, and I did come to kind of appreciate that and realize that. And I liked the book overall. I thought it was solid. I thought it was a real solid effort. And I'll say this: I don't even know why I was intrigued enough to read this. Because I'm not a fan of the Mountain Goats, and in fact I don't like them, which is maybe is. I just think it's interesting when musicians do stuff like this, and I'm interested in like the Japanese Breakfast has that memoir, Crying in H Mart. Which a memoir, I'm like less. I'm more intrigued by the idea of a someone in a different arts writing novels, because it just strikes me as this outlet. When it's not your primary outlet, I always feel like that's interesting to me that they're still inspired enough to make something like this so out of the box for them, maybe. But then anyway, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was solid. It's worth checking out if this what I've described to you is of any interest.